I'm dealing with like a cold. But hey, I'm going to now, these typically go live on Facebook. We got LinkedIn, we've got YouTube. I will put this on the podcast, but if you're listening to the podcast, you might want to watch the video also on one of those resources. But what I want to go over today is why, again, if everything stays the same in traditional patterns that we've seen, the title is why wholesale prices will be going down soon. Okay, and this is kind of that proof behind it, at least of what metrics we've been tracking for over close to a decade now. And I don't want it just to be based on my suggest or just my thoughts and what I think and what I feel. This is based on kind of feedback, hundreds of dealers across the country of what we've been tracking and trending. On top of dealers who've been reaching out and looking for help. But really, it's going to be based on metrics both by Black Book wholesale data to Google shopper indexes and even 2 week sold percentages on retail. So I'm going to go over some graphs. And again, this is why, again, if you're listening to the podcast, you're going to want to maybe check out the videos if you want to validate these graphs. Now, if you watch my videos before, this could be repetitive on the graphs, but I'm going to show you a final graph where I've actually put all this data together into one graph overlapping this information. Again, I wouldn't say prove my point, because again, obviously this is speculation. I could be wrong. I'm just going to show you the patterns that we've seen. And if the patterns continue, wholesale would be going down soon. And I know everybody talking about shortages of vehicles and so forth. And I will agree with you out there. There is a shortage of used car listings right now out there in the market. And one way I could show you that is we do track listings on inventory sites like Auto Trader, Cars.com. We look at national listings and so forth. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen on some of that information. I'm going to hold on one second. I'm going to point it right here. And one of the things that we take a look at, again, is used car listings nationally. Now, we were tracking it on Auto Trader. They stopped kind of posting that. We had to switch over. We're still looking at Cars.com, but as you can see, they kind of mirrored each other either way. And we've been, again, tracking these for years. So I'm not, I could go back 8 years of this data. But if you look, this time last year, Cars.com had 1.39, let's say 1.4 million used cars. And that's dropped down now to 1.1 or 1.5 million used cars. So there's about an 18% drop in used car listings. Okay. And I'm going to show you here. I'll tell you some stats too, though. There's been about a 23% drop in shopper activity. So even though there's less inventory by 18%, there's even more or less shopper activity. So I'll show you that. But two, if you look at new car listings, again, let's just look at Cars.com new car listings. This doesn't mean every new car dealer's on these sites or not. But again, volume's volume. We've compared these numbers over the years. You talk 495,000 is now 975,000. It's doubled. So the amount of new car availability is doubled out there. There's already rebates and incentives. I do believe that customers are going to transition over to new cars as incentives are getting better, interest rates are there, maybe rebates to help in equity situations happen. And again, that's where I think wholesale can go down, because I do believe anybody buying, especially in that July, August area, that's usually at new car sales events. I was watching some sporting events this weekend. There's a lot of automotive commercials happening again. We didn't see those for a while over the last couple of years, as there weren't any new cars to advertise. As clients, we tend to also, in a 100-mile radius or even 50, we'll track new car or used car listings in their market. And even if they're a Ford store, what kind of inventory is listing there. But I don't want to stop that information there. Let's go with the shopper indexes. And here's what I want to look at. Now, I picked out a window of time to kind of go back to prior 2018, prior COVID information, to look at shopper indexes. Okay. Now, again, if you've watched any of my videos, it's kind of repetitive, but I just want to give you the seasonal adjustments that tend to happen. And you go back to 2018, January, if you see this February, March, now on a scale of 100, this is what Google's basing this on. So in February and March, it was around 93 out of 100 shopper index. Right after March, things drop down through April and May. Okay. Activity drops from 93 down to 82, about 10-15%. It does pick up in this July, August area each year. And again, that tends to be, I think, as new car and summer sales events, summer sales-a-thons, they get attention. People maybe buying cars for vacation time and stuff. And then it drops off through November and December. Back up in February or March, again, pre-COVID, drops down through April and May, and then picks up August, and then drops back down through December. Now we run into 2020 where March tax season, it actually drops off. COVID shutdown, opens back up, business is back to normal. A little bit of that drop off all the way through December, back up in March. Now, 2021, it was more March than it was February because the late tax season adjustments, they weren't giving refunds out for a while. And then it drops back down to July, a little bit of an uptick, and then back down through December. Now, look at last year's March. Last year's March was at 74, which was way off compared to the 96 the previous year. Okay. So that's down 20-something% in shopper from last March to the previous March. And then again, it drops down through April, through May. Okay, a little bit uptick in August, back down through December. Now, what we're looking at now already, this February and March has kind of already hit its peak. And matter of fact, if we just kind of look at maybe the past 5 years, you'll see it a little bit more drastic here. We dropped down through December. It picked up in January. It was really weird. January, February is a really early uptick. And then we're already transitioning down like we do every year, but that typically didn't happen until April. But you can see last year it really dropped down by mid-March. It already started going down last year. If you go to the previous year, by March 14th, it's really where it dropped off back to April. So all the previous years, by this time, it's already dropping, okay? And this time, this year is lower than where we were this time last year. That is that 23% drop in shopper activity. Okay. Again, what you do, you can look at the last 12 months and you go back and look at where we were last year at 92 compared to where we are right now, 82. You're going to see a drop in shopper comparisons. So that's one. So we have less shopper activity again compared to back here at 96 to where we are right now. So that's one area. Let's go look at Black Book, okay? Black Book just came out with their insight reports, okay? Wholesale is up. If you're a wholesaler, you're in great business. And the thing is, wholesale values are up. But the retail pricing hasn't reflected. And matter of fact, a lot of dealerships are still dropping prices to get inventory moving. Matter of fact, I bought my wife a car just last month or in the last 3 weeks because it was $9,000 cheaper than how they had it priced in November. So this is this month just came out. And here's my point on this. The auction, even though wholesale is up, okay, it's a 53% sale rate. That means 47%, still almost half the cars running through the lane are not being sold. Well, you can compare that to last year's, okay? I'll scroll back up to the top. If you look right here, this is last March's auction data, and it was actually 65% last year. Okay. So remember, last year's shopper activity was way lower than the previous shopper tax season activity in 2021. 2022 was about 20% lower. And we're already lower in this March tax season than we were the previous year. Then you talk about wholesale being high. But again, 65% were selling last year. We're only 35% no sale rate. We're at a 47% no sale rate. Okay. Now, what I was looking at all these data points, I said, what would be crazy? What if I compared the sale rate at the auction to the actual shopper indexes. And I manually put all this data together into this little spreadsheet. Now, the other thing that I included is we have our own little log here that we track our dealers' activities. We track what percentage of our dealers, what percentage of their inventory have the dealers sold in a 2-week period. Okay. Now, what that means is we want you to carry 100 cars, sell 100 cars a month. Okay. So what we look at is what you sold in the last 2 weeks. And I want you to sell half your inventory in 2 weeks. So you're selling 100% of your inventory in 4 weeks. And that's the numbers here. And if you look at our great dealers, our top 10 dealers, just at the beginning of March, and again, March 7th is looking at the last 2 weeks. So it's picking up the last week of February, the beginning of March. Our green, 73%. They were selling 73% in 2 weeks. That puts them on pace to sell 146, almost 150% of their inventory in 4 weeks. Look how that's dropped down now. Okay, that's dropped down now to 56%. And we're tracking what percentage are they selling in the first 30 days just to make sure they're still getting gross. And you can see here, these dealers, 75% of their sales are going out in the first 30 days, selling 150% of their inventory. So they're making gross and volume. But this goes all the way back to 2021, the 2-week sold percentages. And so then I said, okay, well, let's throw that number into the mix and look at just the direct comparison of this information. And you can see it here. Look at the red line, the shopper index, okay? Back in 2020, in June, again, this is after COVID shutdown, things opened up, shopper index almost hits 100. And guess what happens to the percentage of units sold at the auction? It was at a 68% sale rate. As shopper indexes dropped, so did the volume at auctions. It dropped into the 50s, okay? Now, shoppers peaked again back here in March of last year. Remember that of 2021, that uptick in March tax season. That was that peak. And guess what happened weeks following? Within a couple weeks, that's on 2020, shopper index is at 100. Wholesale goes all the way up to 75%. Only 25% no sale rate. Now look at our dealers' 2-week sold percentages. They were selling 60% of their inventory in a 2-week period. So the same time shopper activity goes up, volume at dealerships are going up. So of course the sale rate at the auction goes up. Shopper index drops, wholesale volume drops, dealers' 2-week sale rate percentages drop. The shopper index drops all the way through the 25th of December. And again, the dealer's volume goes down. So guess what happens at the auction? The sale rates drop to 62%. Now you go back into last tax season. Again, it's lighter. It's at shopper index is 83. That's way lighter than the previous year by about 17%. Look at the dealer's 2-week sold percentages. Start picking up that green line. Guess what? Wholesale starts going back up as far as the sale percentage. Dealers are out there, and here they are in April and May, overpaying for cars, hoping to keep that momentum going. Wholesale stayed high because, again, dealers had their 2-week volume go up, shopper indexes were there, and the sale percentages go up. And as the volume started going up at the lane, okay, more floors get dropped, more cars get sold, and the sold percentage increased. The problem is, and everybody knows this is what happened, by July, dealers started feeling some pain. Things started slowing down, okay? And the shopper index just bottoms out all the way from July to the end of December, okay? And guess what happens to the sale percentages at the lane? The cars stop selling. Okay. And we're all the way down to a 44% wholesale percentage. In the meantime, dealers are keeping their inventory steady. They're only selling about 80% of their inventory in a month or 40% in that 2-week period. But the weird thing happened. Instead of a February, March uptick in shopper activity, it happened in January and February. And again, this happened based on, I shared, and you could see in my Facebook post, in January, February, I was showing these huge discounts dealers were giving on cars, $4,000, $5,000, $9,000, $10,000. We're getting knocked off on prices since November. Dealers start dropping their prices in January, February. Well, that's one reason why I replaced my wife's car already. I bought it $9,000 cheaper than it was in November, and I bought it hopefully now before interest rates continue to go up. So shopper indexes really spiked up at the beginning of the year. Also, I think what happened, I said this on my previous video, I think a lot of customers had to get back to the office. A lot of customers had to get back to work, or the spouses or kids had to get a job. And that's why the job market's been strong. But people needed to replace that car they maybe got rid of, thinking they didn't have to show up at the office anymore. And deals are out there and interest rates are going up and they're trying to beat to the punch. But remember, year after year after year after year, by March, into March and going into April, the shopper activity drops off, volume starts dropping off, and that's what we're already starting to see. Shopper activity, the red line goes from 69, we're at 60 already. Look at what happened to our dealers' green 2-week sold volume. Again, it spiked up at 59%. It's already dropping down to 54%. If these metrics continue over the next couple of weeks, look how wholesale sale rate is increasing at 53%. It's been increasing. But guess what's probably going to happen? It'll probably continue to go up for a little bit. The sold percentages will. Because as the value starts peaking and dealers realize, okay, this is probably, or wholesalers or banks or OEMs, this is the peak of what they can get. They'll drop the floors, the sell percentage will keep going up, and dealers will be there to buy them a little bit to get that inventory up. But then that's where wholesale is going to start dropping. Just like here, it peaked by the wholesale volume, the volume of cars selling peaked by May 21st. And then it started dropping off all the way through the end of the year. And that happens pretty much, if it look back here at April, drop down. We had a little bit of an influx in sold percentages as value stayed pretty good. And of course, everybody went there and bought some, so they dropped the floors, and then the wholesale continued. Volume dropped. As volume drops, so will the pricing, or the no sale, there's no sale rate drops. It's because the floors are sitting there and the cars are falsely high. They won't release their floors because they don't want to take the beating. So as we're going into, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen, but this is, again, my point is, if the shopper index continues to drop like it traditionally does year after year, and if the 2-week volume continues to drop like it does year after year, again, that's where we're going to see wholesale. By May or June, you're going to be able to buy these wholesale units. If the floors are dropped, or, dealers, especially I think by April and May, you're going to be able to buy some cars because floors start dropping and they're going to try to maximize that volume. And then, again, by June, you're going to be able to keep your inventory clean so you can be a buyer when that stuff does happen. Okay, so just because wholesale's up, just because values are up, doesn't mean the cars are worth that if that no sale percentage continues to be high. It's creeping up. Again, it was in the 40s, or it was in the 50s, but now it's at 47% no sale rate, 53% are selling. Again, that's 12% lower than last year. 65% of the cars at the auction were selling last year, and it's down to 53% now. So why is that? So as these cars come into the market, I think you can, as these cars coming into the market, you're going to be able to, and again, new car availability probably brings in more trades over the next 2 or 3 months. And again, especially to that July, August, summer sales events that new cars do, you're really going to have a tricky wholesale retail balance this year. So watch these numbers. Again, it's not necessary. It's speculation, but it's based on how the trends have been running for years and years in prior COVID and even during COVID seasons. So watch these values. We want you to stay ahead of this. We want to keep that inventory moving and control what you could control. You can't control what's happening at the lane. You can't control the economy or the interest rates. You can't control what the dealer down the street's doing, but what you can control is what's happening on your lot. Find your problems on your lot that's causing you not to get your 2-week sale volume up, that's causing you not to increase your fresh sale rate to get gross profits. And more times than not, it's lead management. So inventory management needs to be lead management, and lead management shouldn't be done based on the age of the lead, should be done on the lot management. Meaning if I have a truck problem, let's handle truck leads. If I have a 35 to 40 grand vehicle problem, they're sitting on my lot. Well, let's work those leads. And again, that's where LotPop comes in. We've created a LotWalk tool that combines your CRM and your inventory tool into one, where we could talk customers and cars. If you like information on how we can help you stay ahead of this, lotpop.com. Reach out. We'd love to do a demo with you to show you how we help you stay ahead of this. We're not here to replace your inventory tool. They do a great job at market data, auction data, and listings and competitive sets. And your CRM, we're not here to replace that. They do a great job with the contact information or contact ratios and stuff with the customers. But we want to point out the customers and the cars causing those problems based off your data first, and then pivot to those tools to dig deeper. Lotpop.com. Hope this was helpful. Thanks.